come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por
We
favor,
invite you if
manténganse
you
alejados
dare
de las
step
This
puertas.
here's
because
the
in tonight's
wildest
episode,
ride
you
in the
will be
West.
stuck in this elevated travel door is changing.
Hello and welcome to Miles from Main Street, your Far From Disney podcast. My name is Mikhailo,
And I'm Brian,
and we're here to talk about Disney World,
but especially coping away from Disney.
which we know a lot about being from the Midwest. Today we have Tatyana Lubov from Disney's national tour of Frozen. Tatyana just so happens to be my sister, Tatyana Neherniak. Today, we're going to ask her a couple questions about what it's like to be a Disney cast member and kind of her backstory as how she got into musical theater and her journey to the Frozen National Tour. How's it going, Tatyana?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, a couple initial questions. You are furloughed from work, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And where did your tour officially end? When did they actually shut down the tour?
So it was pretty short-lived, unfortunately. We opened in LA and we were there for 2 months, and then for a month we were in Seattle, Washington. And then where we left the tour, where it was announced March 13th that it was postponed, was Portland, Oregon. And we were there for about 2.5 weeks. So it was a pretty short run of the beginning of the tour.
Yeah. That's crazy. So Frozen, you being your brother, I know your history, but you were also Cinderella on the national tour of Cinderella, and that was the Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, not the Disney Cinderella.
Yes, unfortunately. Just kidding.
Yeah. But why don't you just tell us your theater background and kind of how you got into it and your journey trying to find jobs and stuff like that and the things that you've done.
Yeah. I don't know how much you've talked about our family's background, but Kylo and I come from a very musical family. So if I wouldn't have gone into something musical, or any of us, me or Kylo or our younger brother, Andre, that would have been weird. So if we would have gone to school to be a dentist, people probably would have questioned that. But,
Yeah.
so that being said, I got a degree in theater from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and randomly as well, a minor in anthropology. And then from there, I worked a summer stock gig in Center Level, Maine, middle of nowhere. But oddly enough, it's Lake Keyser is where we had this summer stock gig, and that is the same lake that Stephen King and his son live on. So, fun fact. And then from there, I moved out to New York City, and I was working jobs as a cater waiter and I was nannying, and one of my jobs was actually dressing up as Disney princesses, and we would the actors would go to like kids' birthday parties, and we would go, like, I dressed up as Elsa and Cinderella both during that, and we would just sing songs with kids on their birthdays. And so those were my survival jobs while I was auditioning. And then my first professional gig that I got was the role of Cinderella, or Ella as it is in the musical, the staged version. And so I did the national tour of, well, the North American tour of Cinderella, because we traveled in Canada for a little bit. So I did that, and then moved back to New York when I felt it was time to depart that show, and luckily got hired from a Disney theatrical group to be a part of the national tour of Frozen. So yeah, that's my theatrical background leading up to now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. I don't think I've ever actually asked you this question, but when you were auditioning for Frozen, I know you kind of kept that under wraps, and then you kind of like told the family when it was official. But when that was happening, was that something where like you just kind of like showed up to that audition, or did anybody kind of like point you in the direction of going to this audition? And like were you found, or did you just like end up showing up to the audition?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think everyone with their auditions and how they get certain gigs, I think it's very different for everyone. But for both of my for both of my roles that I've played, it's been a combination of luck, I think, plus determination, talent, whatever you want to call it. But luck definitely played a huge part of it. For Frozen, all of the audition slots for this specific role that I am playing on the tour, all of these audition slots online were taken up. And so this was when I was a server at a brewery in Brooklyn. So while I was hosting there, I was sneaking my phone out at the host station and constantly checking to see if there were any openings, if someone canceled their audition. And luckily someone dropped so someone was kind enough to say, oh, I can't make this, so I should probably remove myself from this audition slot. And I immediately selected it and obtained an audition slot and went out that afternoon, because I was working in the morning, went out that afternoon and auditioned for the first round of Frozen. So I was not expecting to get the audition. And then from there, because it was very specific to what my voice type is, so very high soprano, even though my speaking voice doesn't sound like it, I feel like I'm speaking pretty low right now. My singing voice, I'm typically in chorus, high soprano. And so that's what they needed, as well as someone who could cover the role of the queen, so Elsa and Anna's mom. So if the woman who's playing the queen is sick or calls out of a show, I have the potential to go in and play that role. So you have to be able to sing both parts. So luckily it was in my niche that I could do both of those things.
Yeah, very cool. I kind of going back to Cinderella, which you had the leading role in that. I remember at one point you and I talking, and I know it was kind of a dream of yours to become a Disney princess in the parks, but your height, I don't think you're not quite tall enough.
No, I am. I'm. Isn't it 5'5" and up, or 5'5" to 5'9"? Nope, 5'4" to 5'9" is the height. So I'm 5'7". So I am like perfectly in that. And
well, there you go.
Yeah, it's Cinderella who I wanted to play too. And I think before I was auditioning, that was something I was considering, was moving down to Florida and working as a character performer, because I think I knew some people who had done that. I knew an Aladdin for sure. I don't know if I'm able to disclose names. I don't think I am. And then I knew Prince Charming as well. And they both really love their time working at the parks. Yeah.
And I mean, you kind of bypassed that and just became Cinderella on a national tour. So that's pretty cool too.
I suppose. Yeah.
So, while you were in California, because the tour started in California, correct? For Frozen, did you get any special deals or anything like that for going into Disneyland?
Yeah, we actually had a day where we were allowed to use one free park hopper, so we could go to both parks, which was really cool. And we also get I don't know what the exact discount is, but you do get not a character performer discount, but I think they call it a cast member discount. So you just look up my company member number and they can apply it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the percentage was?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's I think it's either 10 or 20
Okay.
I want to say, I think it's 20. I think it's 20. I think it's the same as my Disney debit card, which is 20.
Okay. Cool.
So guess I didn't have to get that.
That's cool. I know. When I went to go see you in California, and then also have my high school march in the Rose Parade, I was able to get out to Disneyland. It was very cool. I didn't get to go to both parks though, so I was kind of sad about that.
Yeah, we'll have to go back
Yeah.
when it's open, when it's safe.
Yeah. Brian, do you have anything?
Well, the one thing that we had been talking about, you are considered a full-fledged cast member, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we were curious if you had gone through traditions, which is the cast member history program, for those of you who don't know.
Oh,
I don't think so.
then maybe I'm not a cast member, technically.
Well, and we didn't know if the performers in this case would go through that. So
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's only like a 4-hour program at this point. It used to be like a 3-day thing that a cast member would have to sit through.
Oh, yeah, we did this online. Is it like, yeah, we got like assigned, it was almost like homework that we had to do.
Okay.
That could be what it is. I'm trying to remember that. That was so long ago, and I'm now remembering everyone like talking about it. Some people complaining. But yeah, maybe that's what it was.
So it wasn't a very memorable event then, I guess.
No, and I could also be thinking of, it could have been just like safety training that we were doing, which doesn't sound like a fun tradition. But we'd also had, but maybe it's different because Disney owns a lot of, it's a giant umbrella over a bunch of different corporations that are all connected together. And Disney Theatrical Group could be its own kind of segment. So it's possible that I'm not technically considered a cast member, but I'm just going to say that I am.
I think we should, definitely.
Well, you're a member of the cast of Frozen.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I'm a member of the cast.
Member. Yeah.
So when you were on tour, what was a typical day like?
Well, it depends on if you're in a city early on, which that's kind of what I remember is we were still very fresh on tour. So we had a lot of rehearsals that we were doing. So anytime you come into a new theater, a new space, you will have to do spacing rehearsals and mic checks and all that stuff. So typically in the beginning of your visits in cities, it's a little hectic. But then once you get past the first week of when you're in a city, you have pretty much the entire morning and early afternoon to explore wherever you are. So in Los Angeles, that was pretty cool because we stayed right in Hollywood, which definitely is not what you think it's going to be like. It's the stars are still there on the sidewalk and everything, but when nothing's going on during the day, so it's kind of like a ghost town until the shows start. So we would leave Hollywood to explore Los Angeles. But yeah, it's great. Since this is the first national tour that I'm on for Frozen, we have longer sit downs, which is wonderful because then you really do get to immerse yourself in the city that you're living in. But when I was on Cinderella, I think it was the second national tour, so a lot of the big cities were already hit. And so you didn't, like, the longest I think we stayed somewhere was 2 weeks. So it's a little difficult to explore where you're staying. You really kind of just want to go back to your hotel room or your Airbnb and recuperate, eat, sleep, and then go back to the theater. So it kind of varies on what kind of production you're on. But yeah, for Frozen, I definitely had more time to explore I did a lot of hiking, which was fun with cast members too. Hiked through the Hollywood Hills. That was fun.
So did you get a chance to star as the Queen when you were still on tour?
Yes, I did. And it was a super wonderful moment because my friends, my high school friends and my boyfriend had flown out to Seattle because I think my friends know someone there or they've always wanted to go to Seattle. And one of the two, but that's where we all met up, and it was really fun to reconnect with friends. But then it just so happened that that's when I debuted as the Queen. So that was really awesome that they got to see that.
That had to be exciting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only ever got to see you once, and that was in California. So it was really cool to see you in California, and that's the first time I had ever been to California, so it was very cool. And I remember you playing in Cinderella, and I saw you maybe like probably like 7 or 8 times. And that was very cool, just because you actually came pretty close a couple times. You came to my college once. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of missing that. I'm missing being able to come out and see you perform. I think we were planning on going to see you in Minnesota at one point, but
Yeah, Minneapolis was supposed to be in May. Our mom saw Cinderella 19 times, so she is in the same boat as you, as missing out on performances.
oh yeah. Cool. So we're gonna kind of transition from your theater days into your Disney fandom.
Ooh, good.
Yeah. Tatyana is my sister. I think I've said that enough times. And I'm a humongous Disney nerd, hence the Disney podcast that I'm recording currently. And I thought it was great that Tatyana kind of adopted this Disney fandom with me. I feel like out of our whole family, I was kind of the first one to really like jump headfirst into it. But eventually both my sister and my brother kind of adopted the Disney fandom and Disney nerd culture that I have. And one thing, I think I've said this before, Tatyana, is that, and I've said it before on this podcast, is there was a moment on Splash Mountain at one point at one of our Disney vacations that we were all just kind of like psyched about being there and like super excited about everything. And that's kind of like when I realized that like both you and Andre were in the same boat. I'm doing air quotes right now because it's a boat ride. Just in the same boat as I was with your Disney fandom, and that was really special to me. And so it's really great to have two people that you're so close with be into this same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I have a big smile on my face right now just thinking about Disney
Aww.
in that moment too, because I think I remember it. I at least remember the trip. Was it the time that we got in to Magic Kingdom when we didn't think we would?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And we just ran to Splash Mountain because we were all so excited.
You may have not been able to tell, but I had tears in my eyes, but Splash Mountain may have covered that up.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's just really great to have that to share with you as a sister. But go ahead and talk about how you feel about it. I don't think I've ever actually talked to you about kind of when this started and how you got into it and kind of some of the things that you love about Disney and kind of what keeps you coming back.
Yeah, I mean, our family, our grandparents used to live down in Florida. So I feel like we went a lot whenever we would go down and visit them. Grandpa was Ukrainian, and so he had a little Ukrainian community that he lived with in Florida for a while there. But I think probably just because we went and visited it so many times, and I could see how much joy it brought you, and that's just very infectious in Disney, I think. But then not just visiting the parks. It was a big part of my childhood. I have so many memories of Disney Channel original movies and even Stevens and That's So Raven. Like, I remember we had this little white TV in the kitchen that would like, it was connected to the bottom of our cabinets, and I would eat my cereal and just sit with like my eyes glued to that TV, like watching Raven have a vision about the future and go through crazy scenarios to try and prevent it. So I think it just was a big part of my childhood and growing up, and now it's my job kind of, which is great. So yeah.
So what's your favorite park? This wouldn't be a Disney World interview without asking what your favorite park is.
Yeah. I am gonna have to say Magic Kingdom. I feel like that's the easy answer to give, but it's the one, so much of Disney is nostalgic for me. And of all of the parks, that one is hits home for nostalgia and just immediately brings back all of those wonderful memories and cultivates new ones.
Mm-hmm.
So what types of things interest you within Magic Kingdom, or just within the fandom itself, that you really kind of zone in on?
Yeah, I mean, the castle for sure. And then right when you walk in, just walking down Main Street, that's always a really wonderful moment. It's just a great walkway to bring you into all the rides and fun and everything. And I think there are more character performers too that gravitate in Magic Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
That could be wrong, but maybe I'm making that up, but that's just how I remember it. So I love that too. We were never really into like stop, and maybe I think we were when we were younger, but we were never really into stopping and taking pictures and getting autographs. But I would always, if we were like running to one fast pass to a different ride, seeing a character and be like, oh, there's Mary Poppins. Yeah. And some of my favorite rides are in Magic Kingdom too.
So what would be your favorite ride at Magic Kingdom or at Disney World in general?
Tower of Terror, I would say.
Yes.
Because that it just encompasses everything I love. Like I'm a pretty spooky person. I love horror movies and Halloween, and I loved Tower of Terror. Like, we would watch that movie, I feel like, on repeat growing up.
Oh yeah.
And so that it just yeah. And it's pretty close with Haunted Mansion. Like that, I was thinking about that today. I was like, oh, which one, if I get asked this, which one am I going to say? But I'm going to go with Tower of Terror.
Yeah, your honestly, your answers are pretty on point with my answers too.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
So I remember cruising Facebook one time, and you guys were on a trip, and your dad posted being at Disney World with Mikhailo is like having your own tour guide. So
it's true.
So is he a pain in the butt to be on a trip with, or?
Oh no, I would say the opposite. It's wonderful because you don't have to plan anything out on your part. And I put all of my faith and trust in Kylo when he's making these plans, because he's instilled in me all the things that I love about Disney, because it's what he loves. So obviously I'm going to be down to do whatever he wants when he wants to do. So no, I wouldn't say, I don't think we've ever argued about where we're going to go or anything. It's just, I'm along for the ride. It's amazing.
That's so funny. I think when I think of, because this actually comes up a lot with Disney and people who don't really plan, and people end up arguing about things they want to do, and I tend to think about the things that we as a family have argued about, and it's mainly just mom stopping us to take
I
pictures.
know. Which I like think about that. I revisit that in my head. I'm like, we should have just stopped and taken
I know.
pictures for the poor woman.
Terrible.
And we have so many pictures of us in ponchos, like not smiling. It was like raining, and mom's like, just take a picture in front of Mount Everest.
That's there was one time that we went to Epcot, just me, Tatyana, and Andrei, and mom and dad stayed back at the hotel.
Aw.
And we were laughing because we would stop and take pictures, and we would be like, oh, we should do this for mom, or like, and we were doing it in like a weird way. So
Yeah, I remember that. There was Cinderella was in a fountain, or there's a fountain that has Cinderella in it. And I remember posing next to her, and that was
yeah, I remember that
one
one.
of our weird for you, mom.
So this podcast is mainly about, like, our main objectives is to kind of go over the things that you need to do to go over coping strategies for being away from Disney World. Being from the Midwest and being in the center of the country, we can't really get out there as much as we would like. So, Tatyana, what are some things that you like to do to kind of keep the Disney spirit alive and cope with not being able to go to Disney World as much as you would like?
I think Disney Plus has been a wonderful coping mechanism. They really set that up for us, which I'm grateful for. And like I said before, I grew up with all those Disney Channel original movies that I adore so much, and TV series as well. And like there was a point in time where Kylo and I were watching So Weird.
Yes.
And that was so awesome. Like I haven't gone back and watched them forever. And you know how hard it used to be to find those episodes when we didn't have Disney Plus? Like they just make it so easy to be immersed in Disney magic when we're so far away from the park. So I definitely that. And actually, because I'm a Disney, and I don't know if you wanted to touch on this later, but because I'm a Disney employee, that means that I have the ability to further my education through the Disney Aspire program. And so I suppose another coping mechanism is that I'm distracting myself with schoolwork. So I am working to get my master's thanks to Disney. I'm under the University of Florida, which has been really strange being back in school. Especially after getting the theater degree. It's just very, very different, but it's great. It's challenging, which is good. So yeah, I guess my answers there would be Disney Plus, watching all the throwbacks and everything I love, and then distractions.
Literal distractions. Yeah, I not that I completely forgot about that, but that is another really cool thing that Disney's actually paying for your education. And that's not just a Disney theatrical thing. Is that everybody in the like all the way down to like people who like skippers on Jungle Cruise?
Yeah, that it actually was offered to them first. So it was a program that was tailored for park workers, and not even it was only Florida Disney World park workers. And so it was offered to them, and then they saw such wonderful success rates, and so they then offered it to, I believe the next wave was California Disneyland residents were then able to further their education as well. And then they expanded to more schools than just University of Florida. And then they expanded it to the entire Disney umbrella, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great to hear they're still doing that with all the other issues they were having. So that's great.
And for me, I hope there are a lot of people taking advantage of that right now, especially if they're not working due to COVID.
Yeah, that's definitely a really awesome outlet that Disney has given people to be able to go in further themselves, and especially right now with COVID and everything.
So one thing we didn't touch on is what are you doing to fill your time other than school right now?
I mean, it's a lot of school. I took a lot of credits this semester. But actually, other than that, I'm getting my yoga teacher training certification. So that's the one plus of being able to delve into other hobbies. That's the one plus of being furloughed. So
I'm gonna go ahead and look into my crystal ball and pretend like I'm not your brother administering an interview. And do you have any animals in your life?
I do. I have I think she's still considered a kitten. Yeah, definitely. She's almost 6 months. Maybe not even 5 months yet. But a beautiful, magical black kitten. And her name is Marceline. And she's been a wonderful, wonderful crutch during this pandemic as well. So I thank her. And I thank the farm cat that had kittens on my boyfriend's land.
I remember when Tatyana first, she was kind of trying to figure out a name for Marceline, and it was like Gigi and Marceline, and those were the names that she had. And when she first brought up Marceline, I was like, oh yeah, I love Marceline. And Tatyana loved Marceline too, but we loved them for different reasons. The reason I loved Marceline was Marceline, Missouri, where Walt Disney grew up. And Tatyana's reasoning behind Marceline was, isn't it like a vampire from a cartoon?
Not just any cartoon, Adventure Time. But yes, a cartoon. She is Marceline the Vampire Queen. So that's who she's named after. More of my spooky background coming out there. Yeah.
I'll just keep thinking that you named it for Walt.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know. I was like, is Kylo going to give that reason, or is he going to be like, oh, Disney?
Cool. Well, thank you, Tatyana, for tuning in and letting us interview you tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
is really great.
Yeah. Good luck in the future with your theatrical endeavors. I'm sure you're immensely talented, and so I'm sure you'll have no problem.
You have to say that. You're my brother.
No. From the bottom of my heart, you're so incredibly talented, and there's no doubt in my mind that you'll be totally fine. Yeah, thank you for sharing your Disney fandom with us tonight.
It's been great talking with you, Tatyana. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, that's all we got for you guys tonight. Thanks for tuning in and listening to our interview with Tatyana Lubov from the national tour of Frozen. My favorite character in Frozen, because she's my sister. Thank you guys, and be sure to tune in next week to Miles from Main Street. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please rate us on iTunes and subscribe. Email us at milesfrommainstreetpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, and visit us on Facebook under Miles from Main Street. We'll be bringing more to you weekly and look forward to talking to you then.
Until next week, remember,
some live close,
but most of us don't.
So let's talk about it.